Okay, so good afternoon, students. Can someone tell me what we studied in the last class? Can you unmute and respond, or you can use the chat box? Anything is fine. Kishan, what did we study last class? What was our discussion?
Sorry, sir, I didn't attend the last class.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody else would like to respond? Meanwhile, I'll just pull up the notes. Okay, so is it visible for you all? Are you able to see?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now, previously we had spoken about these formulas. Right? Now, these formulas are very important for us, okay? Because it will give us the horizontal polarization, vertical polarization, okay, with the respective specific coefficients. And why is this necessary for us? So that we will be able to calculate the attenuation. Okay. Now, as I told you, launching a satellite and getting things up in the space, such a harsh environment is actually a challenge. Now, in order to maintain it or in order to keep it going, we will have to also, follow few parameters, which is very important in order to have proper communication from the satellite to the base station. Many times, sometimes what happens is, we actually fail to do or perform certain hand calculations, which actually ends up in a huge problem. Okay, there are instances where people have lost satellites. Okay, there are instances where billions and billions of dollars are invested in building a satellite, and just because of a minute miscalculation, okay, they were not able to put it in proper orbit, in proper coordinate, and thereby losing its specific purpose that it's built for. Okay, so one such important parameter here to be talked about is attenuation. Okay, so attenuation, these were the formulas actually we looked into. Okay, so where you'll have to know what is your ground level, your EL is your angle of elevation, or sometimes called elevation angle in simple. Okay, then LS is your slant angle. Okay, so if we actually put that down, so your LG will be equal to your LS, and similarly rain height. Okay, the point at which we can find water droplets beyond this point. Okay, beyond this point, we're actually going to see um, ice molecules. Okay, so which means we will not be seeing water in the form of liquid, right? So these were some of the things that we discussed, and we will be needing these values as well for calculation of attenuation. So these are some of the important formulas. Okay, your effective path length, I hope you are making note of these formulas. Okay, because once we start with the problems, okay, so you will have to use these extensively. Okay, where LS is your slant height, and your RP is your reduction factor. How do we get this? We actually get values of AH, AV, BH, and BV here. Okay, and for this reduction factors, we have a different formula which I'll be showing to you. And LG is your horizontal, length. Okay, So reduction factors, yes, this was what I was talking about, you know, with regards to r when it is 0.001 and r 0.01, 0.1 when r is equal to 1. This is your p, rain percentage. Okay, and yeah, this is for our circular polarization. So for circular polarization I will need the help of horizontal and vertical. Okay, the values of ah and av divided by 2. Similarly, if I want to calculate bc, okay, the attenuation bc, then it's going to be ah bh plus av bv divided by 2ac. Just fine. Now this is our problem, okay, where we are going to actually calculate uh, for a frequency of 12 gigahertz. Now if it's a 12 gigahertz, in what band is it functioning? I've told you all many times, right? So in what band is it functioning if it's a 12 gigahertz? Arvind? Arvind, which band is it if it's 12 gigahertz frequency?
AU bands.
Okay, fine, that's good, thank you. So so here we have a problem which is telling calculate for a frequency of 12 gigahertz and for horizontal polarization. So horizontal means what? Your AH. Okay, the rain attenuation is exceeded 0.01%. So here I get r, okay, is 0.01 of the time in any year for the rain rate. Okay, rain rate r, which means how much it's falling per hour. As I told you in my previous class, this is going to be calculated in millimeters, and in 1 hour how much of rain. Okay, so the earth's station altitude, which means the height, okay, is about 600 meters, and the antenna elevation angle, so what is this elevation angle? El is 50 degrees. Now as I told you previously, we have certain formulas for elevation angle, right? Your El directly, uh, yes, so El is nothing but if it's less than 10 degrees, then ls is complicated, so we actually make it greater than 10 degrees and we calculate our El, okay, which is nothing but your angle of elevation. Fine, so let's get back to the problem statement. Okay, and the rain height, okay, so which means my rain height. Now let's get back to the diagram. This hr is how much? It's about 3 kilometers, right? Yeah, 3 kilometers. Consider for horizontal polarization at frequency f is equal to 12 gigahertz. Now values are given here, okay, a, b, then reduction factor values are also given. Fine, so the only thing now from the problem statement, we'll have to extract data, okay, and put them in together so that it becomes easy for us to actually start with the calculation. So el is about 50 degrees, then our h naught, okay, is 0.6, then the rain height, then rp, okay, that is the percentage, 10 millimeters per hour, right? I told you. Then ls, we have the formula hr minus h naught. So hr here is 3, okay, minus h naught is 0.6. Now why is it 0.6? Okay, because I'm bringing everything in kilometers, okay, so it's 600 meters here. Fine, divided by sine el. So sine el angle of elevation is 50. So once I calculate this, I'm going to get 3.133 kilometers. So this is my ls. So what is this ls? Ls is nothing but our slant height. So once I get my ls, it is easy for me to get lg. Now one thing keep in mind, okay, your formulas are all dependent with each other, okay. If in case you do not find a value, okay, then it becomes difficult to calculate the others as well. Okay, so which means you have to go step by step. See, previously we calculated LS, so using LS now I'm able to calculate LG. So LG is nothing but LS value 3.133, as you saw here, 3.133 cos EL. So I get my LG. See, the formulas are very simple. The substitution is very simple. Just that you'll have to remember them. Okay, you'll have to remember. Now I am using this RO1. Okay, why am I using RO1? Okay, because of my 0.01. Okay, fine. So I have put up, okay, I have put up. So this is my LS RO1. So I have to use 90 by 90 plus 4 times LG. So if I calculate, or if I substitute this value here, okay, I'm going to get about 0.198. If in case in the question this reduction factor is not given, if RP is not given, see 0.17 0.9178, if this isn't given, then you will have to use this formula. Okay, so that's the reason I have put it up there. Next, we have to calculate the attenuation. Attenuation is nothing but A is equal to RP raised to B LS into RP. Okay, now capital RP and small rp, these are different. So A value was given here, right? 0.0188. So the same thing is taken here, A, then RP, the percentage, okay, raised to B. Okay, the B value is also given here. B is nothing but 1.217 into LS is calculated, then RP value is here. So finally, I should be getting the attenuation as 0.89, approximately 0.9 dB. Now, there is another question, okay, in the second half. In the second half, consider for horizontal polarization, okay, at f is equal to 12 gigahertz. So f is equal to 12 gigahertz, A value is there, B value is there, and then we start calculating. So A is equal to A, I put the same value 0.0168 into, okay, 10 raised to B is what, my 1.2, okay, and then my LS, okay, LS value we have calculated previously, and RP is here point. So what is the only difference here? The only difference here is that the value of A is different, okay, and B is different. Just see, A we have taken here as 0.0188. So the problem can change, right? So I can keep the same values, or I might change the values. Okay. So here I have 0.01%. Okay. So if you go back 0.01, that's why I'm taking this 90 divided by 90 plus 4 times LG. Okay. If not, then I would have taken something maybe 180 by 180 plus LG. Since it is mentioned 0.01%, I'm restricted to that formula. Okay. So this is how you calculate your attenuation. Okay, now we have to calculate the circular polarization, right? So for circular polarization I need to know what is AH and AV. So AH value I have got, which is 0.8 0.18, okay, and then AV value 0.0168, okay, 0.0 this value here, right? So I'm taking those values, dividing by 2. This is my AC. So once I have this value, next I have to take up my AH and BH plus AB and BB. Okay, so this is nothing but my vertical polarization. Okay, these values, and the values that you saw here is for the horizontal. See, horizontal polarization. So horizontal means AH, BH. Okay, vertical polarization means AB, BB. Okay, so I take those values here, okay, divided by 2 into AC. Now AC value is here, I just put it up, which is equal to 1.29. So the final value is I take AC. Now, can you see the connection happening between all of these formulas? Now, if I have to calculate AC, I need to know what is AH, AB, okay, all this stuff. And if I want to calculate what is BC, I need to know what is AC, right? So this formula is again dependent on AC. So all these things are interconnected, and the final value once substituted, okay, you will get about 0.828 dB. So these were some of the attenuation things that we saw so far, which is only because of rain. Okay, remember, when there is rain, there is a lot of disturbance and communication could be hampered. So similarly, there can be other propagation impairments. So what are those propagation impairments? We will just look into them. It can be because of hail, stones, okay, because of ice, and because of snow, and the effect of attenuation because of low water content. Ice can cause depolarization. It is just like, suppose you take a torch and you take an ice cube, okay, and you pass the light across the ice cube. Will the light pass through fully? Not at all, right? There is going to be a certain amount of depolarization, which means your light is going to be dispersed, okay, it's not going to be uniform. There is going to be dispersion of light. So similarly, signals are also in the same manner, okay. As I told you, ionosphere has these charged electrons, okay, and we are using these for the purpose of communications. So once the signal passes through this ionosphere and then comes down to the base station, and in the base station, okay, before hitting the base station, it should actually cross through these clouds, cross through the ice layer, cross through the water molecules. So all these can cause dispersions, okay, or loss of signals, attenuation in general. So attenuation resulting from clouds, yes, that's what I have put up here, can be calculated as that for rain. Okay. For example, at a frequency of 10 gigahertz, a water content of 0.25 grams per meter cube, the specific attenuation is about 0.05 dB per kilometer. Now, we are talking not about micrometer or millimeter. We are talking in terms of kilometers. So, which means you can understand the impact that is happening just because of attenuation. So, because of attenuation, there is a lot of signal loss that happens. Okay, because of the rain. And about 0.2 dB per kilometer for water content, 2.5 grams per meter cube. Okay, so if you can just see here, 0.25 is causing about 0.05 dB, and zero point 0.2 dB for a water content of 2.5. So it's a drastic loss of signal that we are looking into here. Okay, so with this we actually conclude our module 1, which was nothing but introduction and these losses that can actually occur. So the second module that we are going to start off is with orbits. Okay, so can someone tell me what is an orbit? Is there a specific meaning for orbit? Bhavana, can you unmute and respond? What is an orbit? Can you hear me? Anybody else wants to answer what is an orbit?
Sir,
Yes, please go on.
Mohit.
Yes, Mohit, go on.
Sir, orbit is a fixed path on which a celestial body revolves around a bigger body.
Okay, fine. So it is just like how the moon is a natural satellite for us. Okay, thank you, Mohit. Just like how the moon is a natural satellite for us, which revolves around planet Earth. Okay, similarly, we put up these man-made or artificial satellites in its place. Okay, just like how we have roads here, the highways. Okay, the broadways, okay, the national highways. So similarly there we have paths. So these paths are nothing but orbits. So once we place it in the orbit, we should make sure that it goes in its own path. So when I say in its own path, okay, there shouldn't be any deviation. Just like how we have rules here, traffic rules. Okay, if you're going towards the left, you should be always towards the left. While going to the right, use the indicator. So there in space, we can actually maneuver the satellite. So when I say we can maneuver the satellite, we can actually turn the satellite, or you can take it to the left, right, up, down. Okay, so it can be controlled, okay, throughout. Okay, Bhavana has given us an answer, which is also correct. Okay, it says orbit is a curved path of celestial object around a planet or moon. Yes, so that's the path that we are actually talking about. Fine. So let's look into what's an orbit. Satellites orbiting the earth follow the same laws that govern the motion of planets around the sun. Just like how we have planets which are revolving around the sun, the same way satellites will follow the same rule, which are revolving in which towards which planet, which are revolving which planet? Earth, or whichever planet that we are interested in. Okay, for example, if we are interested in Mars, then we will send a satellite there, try to check what is available. Okay, you must be very much aware with rover, right? And many such things, okay, that is happening. Okay, so just go through this slide, and you will be able to understand as to what exactly that we are talking about. Just give me a moment, please. Meanwhile, are you all able to hear me? Yeah, students, are you all able to hear me? Am I audible? Okay, so this is going to be your um, planets which are actually revolving, okay, orbiting around the Earth. And so the most used best laws of motion is your Johannes Kepler, okay, the three laws of motion. And then later in 65, okay, 1665, Isaac Newton, he derived, Kepler just told uh, the laws, and then Newton was able to put it in the form of an equation, and he developed his own theory of gravitation. Okay, so all of you are very much aware about the apple, which fell on his head, and then he started thinking about it, right, as to what caused the apple to fall on his head, and accordingly he started venturing into finding out as to what exactly uh, caused this. Then you have your Kepler's laws, which apply quite generally to any two bodies in space which interact through gravitation. Now, gravitation is actually very such important factor, whereby it's actually one of the reasons of keeping these planets in its place, these planets in its orbit, and keeps them revolving. Okay, recently they were even able to check the gravitational laws uh, or the gravitational waves, okay, and they were able to find out the intensity of these waves and how they impact the motion of planets and the other bodies in space, right? Okay, so the most asked question, frequently asked question, is going to be with neat diagrams explain Kepler's laws of motion. Okay, so fine. So this is the first law, which talks about the path which is followed by a satellite around the primary will be an ellipse. Okay. So the first law states that the path that is taken up by this is going to be an ellipse. So what's an ellipse? Ellipse is this fashion where you have a major axis, okay, and you have a minor axis as well. Okay, major axis is towards the left and right, and minor axis is from top to bottom, and we will be differentiating them. Okay, we will be having just like four quadrants. Okay, one, two, three, four quadrants, and we will be using few terms called A and B, which is we'll be talking about the eccentricity, okay, which is calculated using A, using E, okay, and I will actually tell you how these things are done. Okay, so the thing that we have to understand here is your satellite is going to take a path which is nothing but an ellipse, okay, and it has two focal points, f1 you are seeing here towards the left side, and f2 sorry, f1 towards the left side and f2 towards the right hand side. Okay, the semi-major axis of an ellipse is denoted by A. So this is called your semi-major axis, and the semi-minor axis is denoted by B. Okay, so from top to bottom is your semi-minor axis, and the one which is actually passing from left to right is your semi-major axis, okay, which is denoted by A. And the eccentricity, or in short we call it as E, is given by E is equal to A square, square root of A square minus B square divided by E. Okay, you do not have any derivations as such, you'll have to just remember these formulas. Okay, so how do we calculate? Let's take this diagram for example. Okay, uh, so this is your f1, this is your f2. Okay, the closer they are, the more circular they are. So eccentricity is actually telling us how ellipse is it, or is it close to the 0 point wherein it actually becomes a circle. Okay, so now you see the focal point f1 and f2, they are very far apart. So if they are far apart, it is just like stretching the circle towards the left and right. So in this case, we say that the E is close to 1. Here E is close to 0 because it's a perfect circle. Okay. So these are some examples that you can look into. This is about 0.984, which is close to 1. It's about 0.7 and E is equal to 0. Okay. So just few points to look into as to what exactly that they are talking about. Eccentricity and semi-major axis are two of the orbital parameters specified for satellites. So you will need the value of A and value of B, which is nothing but your semi-major axis, and you will also need the value of your semi-minor axis. So using this, okay, you will calculate the value of E. So E is basically used for determining how is the path. Okay, now why are we very much bothered of the path? Because we have to place the planet in this path, place the satellite in this path so that it revolves around the planet, right? So calculation of this eccentricity is important. It's a number. Okay, if a question is asked what is eccentricity, is going to be your answer. It's a number which tells you that how flat or circular your ellipse is. The smaller the eccentricity, the more close it resembles a circle. And when E is equal to 0, the orbit becomes circular. So we have seen that, right? And when E is between 0 and 1, which means more the number E is towards 0, more the ellipse will resemble a circle. So if it's close to 0, then it is a circle. If it's moving apart from 0, it's a stretched circle towards the left and right. It's more ellipse. Okay. Now E is equal to C by A. Okay, which is A is the semi-major axis and B is your uh, semi-minor axis. Semi-minor axis. Okay, from your north to south is from your east to west, F1, F2. And C is the distance from the center of the ellipse to either focus or foci. So I can either call it as F1, F2, the focal points, and we know that A square is equal to B square plus C square. So we get the equation for E. Okay, yeah. So this is going to be our final equation, where it's going to be square root of A square minus B square divided by A. What is A? A is nothing but your, what is A? Can someone respond? A is, what is A? Students, what is A and what is B?
Major axis, sir.
Yes, which is major axis?
A, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay, so your major axis and then minor axis. Thank you. Okay, so based on those, you will be able to understand as to how circular it is or how ellipse it is. Close, if it is close to 0, it's a circle. If it's close to 1, then it's going to be an ellipse. Simple, right? Okay, so that is your first law. First law states that we have a motion of a satellite, and that is going to be in an ellipse form. Okay. The second law states that for equal time intervals, a satellite will sweep out equal areas. Very important, right? If we are traveling, say at a speed of 40 kilometers per hour, okay, so either it's here in Bangalore or either it's in Mysore, it's going to be the same distance, right? Or the speed. So 40 kilometers per hour remains the same. So if I calculate, or if I move from Silk Board, okay, going at a speed of 40 kilometers per hour, okay, and someone else also, okay, moves from Silk Board point to the other point at 40 kilometers per hour, they will reach the same point if I stop the clock at 1 hour. Okay, so which means you're going at the same speed, same start point, and if the time given is the same, then you both will reach the same point, right? So that is what is your uh, second law talking about. So equal time intervals will be covered. Okay, for equal time intervals, equal areas will be covered. Okay, so this is an example as to how you can actually talk about your earth is here. Okay, and then you have moved from this point to this point. Okay, and then this value here, the s2, okay, and the s1 will be the same. If you here it's actually looking less, but then if you calculate it, okay, it's going to be the same for the same time given and same speed. Okay, assuming the satellite travels distances uh, s1 and s2, okay, meters in 1 second, then the areas a1 and a2 will be equal. So a1 is area for the sweep s1 and a2 is the area for sweep s2. An important consequence is that satellite takes longer to travel at a given distance when it is far from the earth. Okay, that is because, say, this point is close to the earth, so you can actually see the area a1, but this point is very far from the center of the earth. Now always keep in mind, calculations are done not from the circumference of the earth but from the center of the earth. Okay, so from the center of the earth, okay, if you see this grayed out area, okay, it's not that visible in fact, but if you see a2, okay, you see this a2, so if you see a2, you cannot actually see grayed area. Then in a1 it is very much visible. That's because this point is very much closer to the center of the earth, and this point is very much far from the center of the earth. Okay, so we will be learning 2 points called apogee and perigee. Okay, these two come to picture. Okay, and we will see then how it happens. So what are we understanding with the second law? Equal time intervals, equal areas are covered. Okay, and with the third law, okay, so this is going to be the last slide for our class. With the third law, it states that the square of the periodic time, you basically will have to remember this formula here. Okay, t square by a3, a cube is actually a constant, where that is the square of the periodic time of orbit is proportional to the cube of the mean distance between two bodies. Okay, so if I'm calculating the distance from one body to another body, okay, so that is going to be taken as the mean distance, which is a, and I cube it. Okay, and the time period total taken from one point to another point is taken as t, and I'm going to square it. Okay, so I've put it here exclusively. T is the time taken for one complete rotation by planet around the sun. Okay, so just like how it takes for us about 365 days and a quarter, right? 365 and a quarter. So similarly, that becomes our T, and A is semi-major axis. Okay, so Kepler's third law, what does it state? It states that the square of the periodic time of orbit is proportional to the distance between the two bodies. So using this, okay, how much time it takes to revolve around the sun, so that is your T, and A is nothing but your major axis. So if I have these values, I can actually get a constant, and I can find out that, you know, how far the two bodies are present, planetary bodies are present. So I hope we are clear with these concepts. The third law talking about, you know, the motion of the body, and here you know, the second law, which is talking about you know, how exactly you know, the area is covered, and the first law, you know, is talking about your type or path, okay, which is ellipse. So with this we conclude, and I will be sharing the attendance in your classroom. Okay, so make sure you fill them up. Any doubts, you can please feel free to ask me now. If not, then we will conclude the class. Any doubts, you can use the chat box as well. Okay, we have okay, this is an answer by Bhavana. Okay, fine. Okay, so any questions, you can always feel free to ask. Can we end the class? Yes, can someone respond? Okay, Trishika, thank you for responding. We will end the class now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.